All right, if it's Tuesday, that means it's time for Comic Book School Live because on Tuesday, we own Tuesdays. I did it again. I swear to God. I have two guests in the back room and they're looking at me trying to read a script. I got it wrong. I didn't even press live when we did it. That's how this show is going to go tonight. But Mike Fasolo told me no script tonight. So I'm going to try to wing it and speak from the heart. And as I have noted, I don't know which side of the body the heart is. So I think it's this side, but to you, it might be the other. It doesn't matter. I love you guys. I love you for coming. And I think you're going to love our guests tonight. We've been talking with independent editors and publishers all year. And this is an opportunity for you to hear from senior editors from an up-and-coming publishing company, Mad Cave Studios. And they recently did a talent search. We had their executive, one of their executives on, Mark Irwin. So now we're going to be talking with their senior editors. And I'm really excited about this because this is an opportunity for you to pay attention to both what they're looking for in terms of talent, what you need to know as a creator, and potentially what you might need to know if you were thinking about a career in editorial. So really get into this with me. I'll be looking for your questions. Obviously, I'm looking for Mike Fasolo. I don't know where he is. Maybe he'll show up tonight. Maybe he won't. So we're just going to get started. So I'm going to introduce my two guests. I'm going to bring them both on screen together. This way we're not playing any favoritism. We have our two editors, senior editors from Mad Cave. Chas, since you're in the top right corner, this is Chas Pangburn. Chas, where are you dialing in from?
I am calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio.
And is it nice and hot there?
Actually, yeah, it's been going up into the 90s lately, so it's kind of weird. It's a very humid place. I always kind of compare it to Las Vegas, where it's kind of like you feel like a knife walking through butter. Just it's that humid. It's just kind of gross. So I swear by AC, and I'm always indoors at all possible times.
I love it. That's a perfect comic book answer. Now, Lauren Hitzhusen, welcome. And I think you're calling in from a place where 90 degrees is like a winter day. Am I right?
Yes, I'm calling in from Houston, Texas. Last I looked, it was 100 degrees. It's been very hot this whole summer.
Wow, that is hot. And what's also hot is that you guys are here tonight to talk about Mad Cave Studios and your roles here as editors. It looks already like the questions, did the road become sentient? I should note this is an ongoing joke. My co-host Mike Fasolo usually wears a robe because he wants to dress up for you. He didn't show up even this time. So, and
is it like a Doctor Strange robe or what kind of robe?
No, it's just a dirty old robe, like something like out of what was his name? That was with the movie with the bowling with the
Big Lebowski.
It looks like a Big Lebowski robe, like something that clearly needs to be cleaned. Now, which of the 7 hills in Cincinnati, Chas?
I'm not too sure of that question, to be honest.
Oh.
Full disclosure, I live about 5 minutes south of Cincinnati. I live in northern Kentucky. Not a lot of people know that area, so I just say Cincinnati, but I can see the skyline outside my window.
So none of the 7 hills.
Yeah, exactly. So if you know where Wilder, Kentucky is, there is Bobby Mackey's. They've been on the Travel Channel a whole lot for Ghost Adventures and a spooky haunted bar. But that's all we really have in this city, and that's really kind of it. So that's why I say Cincinnati.
That's totally understandable. And looks like there's some people, it's too hot for the robe. Again, Mike's not even here, and they're just robing on it. So I think he finally washed it so all the living since are dead. If Mike is here, please, Mike, join us. But in the meantime, I'm going to prompt each of you because I have looked at your bios, and you both have an amazing background. And Lauren, I looked you up. You write a lot. I mean, you have a lot of articles. So let's start with you, Lauren. Talk about your origin story, your background in theater and mathematics, which is, of course, goes together all the time. You have a master's degree. You are something else. Tell us about your origin story and how you made it here to Mad Cave.
Sure. So I got into comics, and I want to say I didn't read my first comic book until high school, I think.
Wow.
But I got kind of into superheroes and like the entire medium in about the 3rd grade. I saw Batman the Animated Series, I saw X-Men Evolution, and I saw Batman and Robin. And I was just kind of entranced by that whole world. And it was something that I really, really wanted to get into. And I finally read my first comic, I want to say my freshman year. It was Batman the Long Halloween. And I just fell in love with the entire medium. And I took my senior photos in the graphic novel section of Borders. They're really great photos. I still love them. I'm like sitting in a pile of comics. I'm clearly having the time of my life.
You fell hard then, huh, Lauren? Like,
yeah, completely. And very, very like stealth-led. I started with Batman, and then it kind of turned into which of the characters that I've read about or seen on TV do I want to like learn more about. And so it was this kind of very chaotic, not getting recommendations from people, just like vibes. What do I feel like today? And I did my undergrad in theater performance and math, and they intersected one time when we did a play called Arcadia, which is actually about math, which was really fun. And I went to grad school for publishing at NYU, publishing digital and print media, and I moved to New York with the intention of being a comic book editor. That had been my dream for a long time. That was why I entered that program. I was brought on as an intern at Valiant Entertainment and worked there as an editorial assistant and an assistant editor. And I've also worked in licensing, and I've worked in skincare, and I've worked in mental health. And the opportunity to work with Mad Cave presented itself. And I was already working with them on a freelance basis, and I just loved what I was working on. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I went for it. I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, put me in. I'm ready. So yeah, that's how I got here.
I was curious. I mean, I remember, and I think if I remember correctly, Chris Claremont was also big into theater, and Stan Lee had always wanted to be an actor. What do you think you learned from theater that helps you as an editor and as a storyteller?
I've learned a lot about staging, how a scene looks, because when you're standing in the middle of it on stage, you don't really get a view of it, and then you see photos of it. And I think seeing things and kind of being my own reference, I will rope my husband in occasionally when I'm checking fight scenes for things when I'm doing freelance work, and be like, okay, wait, if I grab you here, does that make sense? Like, let me look at this. And he's incredibly patient with me, just saying, all right, hang on, I'm going to stop your wrist right here. Let's look at this. So it's been a lot of just figuring out how exactly the body moves and how it looks in different poses. And that's been really helpful, as well as facial expressions and word choice, and making sure that the choice that someone's making as a character makes sense with the words that they're saying, as well as, story flow.
That's super, because comics are about people, right? I mean, and characters, and that's what you learn in the theater, is how to get into the mind of a character and live there, right?
Yes.
So last but not least, before we turn the camera on Chas, your role is in the all ages line called Maverick. Is that right?
It's the young adult line, so 13 to 18. And it's been really amazing to work with. My high school mascot was actually the Mavericks, which was a fun little bit of, a coincidence when this job emerged.
So once a Maverick, now always a Maverick, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So wait, so you're the senior editor of the Maverick line, right?
Yes. So we've got a new book coming out next month called In the Shadow of the Throne. And other books that we published in that line are Needle and Thread, Good Game Well Played, World Class, and Nightmare in Savannah.
Let me see if I can pull this up. I had intended, right there it is. We'll just share that. We can see the screen. This is the landing page for Maverick, and this is the line where you're the senior editor.
Yes, and it's really a dream. I love YA. I think it's a really valuable genre. It's a chance for young adults to see themselves and look at emotions and feelings in a brand new way. And it's something that I'm very excited to be a part of.
I love it. It's very colorful. The whole line really crackles, and I'm excited. But speaking of crackle, there is an exclamation point in your name, Chas, and I've been meaning to ask about it. First question: what's the exclamation point?
I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know how soon it was going to happen, but I knew
First
it would.
question. Yep.
On my end, my full name is Charles Hales Pangburn IV. It sounds like royalty, but I have always gone by Chas since I was born. And then in the 6th grade, I was very big into the idea of personal branding. And I also loved Metal Gear Solid, which is a video game. And in that video game, certain characters have an exclamation go above their head. So I just started using it back then, and it's carried me through all of high school, TV and film, and commercials and radio and all that, and then now in comics as well.
Chas, wait, you started personal branding yourself in middle school?
In 6th grade, yes. I don't know what book it was. I want to say it was a Drew Carey comedy book. It was like full of dirty jokes, and I shouldn't have been reading in the 6th grade, but I remember reading a statement about personal branding and thinking, hey, that's kind of cool. I should do that. And I just kind of took it from there.
Chas, that is a very precocious youth. You were a precocious. By the way, I'm going to prompt you if you don't mind, Chas. You show your video game colors right on your left arm. You want to show us the? I like show me the one that the PlayStation controllers are just amazing. I just think that is just amazing. Are you PlayStation or Xbox?
I am a PlayStation gamer, but I pretty much play everything, but I swear by PlayStation above all others. I can't really show it right now, but I do have, I might try. I have a Mad Cave logo right now too, so to round it back to comics.
Hold on, I gotta go big screen for that. Show us your commitment.
There we go.
Just wow!
Right oh my god!
I am that.
Lauren, did you know that?
Company. I had no idea. Okay, that's so funny. I am that dedicated to this company. It is honestly a dream home for me. I guess to kind of circle back to like early beginnings and all that stuff, I'll come back to Mad Cave in a second here. But I was one of those kids that didn't like to read. Yes. Hey, it's James. Thank you so much, James. James is actually our other new senior editor. He started working with us yesterday officially. He will be overseeing our creator-owned line. So you can hopefully have him as another guest in the future as well.
And you've gotten a fan from Maryam. Apparently, she likes that you're sharing your legs on camera. So it's a show that awesome. Delivers. So Chas, your secret origin.
Yes. Okay. So I was one of those kids that did not like to read. I would refuse to read books. I would much rather play Nintendo or just watch movies, do anything at all. So my parents would actually read me comic books. I vividly remember them reading me old issues of like Deathstroke and random comic series like that. A small child should probably not be reading. But I was really big into things like that, Terminator, all these old Dark Horse comics that they should not be reading a child, but they did. And I didn't really read myself. I told Lauren this story earlier today, but I was maybe 2 or 3. I was inside a department store. It was McAlpin's, but now it's known as Dillard's across the U.S. And I was reading a comic. And by reading, I was just looking at the pictures, but it was Bill and Ted #3. And I remember this little girl walked by and she pointed to her brother and just said, "Look, that kid is reading." And her brother said, "No, he's faking it." So ever since that point, yeah, exactly. And like it's traumatizing. It stuck with me ever since that moment.
They called you out? They called you out at the Dillards?
I think I was probably like this or something. Like I was doing it way too fast. But he called me out, and then that set me on a personal goal to learn how to read. And actually, I became an avid reader ever since then. I was an adult reading level in kindergarten. It kind of expanded from there as well. But on my end, I was actually a big TV and film guy. I spent most of my 20s working in TV and film as a DP, a camera operator, camera assistant, production assistant, all of that stuff. And I realized that I was wearing way too many hats, and I was at my happiest when I was either in charge of the project or even writing it myself. So I went back to school, got my master's in creative writing. And during that program, I rediscovered my love for comics. There's a bunch of random different things on IMDb. Most of my credits are like Bridezillas and Undercover Boss, Toddlers and Tiaras, random.
Wait, three of my favorite shows, and I didn't know this.
Yes, it's all reality shows because that's all that comes through Cincinnati. But then every now and then I got to work on cool like independent films like Revelation Trail, which is a Western horror film. But I did all of this, and then I eventually realized that when I was back in getting my master's, that I really, really, truly still loved comics. And I started taking it seriously as a medium. I did everything I could to learn from one of my professors. His name was Roland Mann. Well, is Roland, man. Oh, you know Roland. Okay, great.
Well, I don't know him. I know the
sorry.
name.
You raised the hand. I'm like, oh, cool, they're friends, that sort of thing. Super great guy. He answered every question I could ever have had. I learned a lot from him, and then I started kind of building up from there. And my thesis was a graphic novel that I wrote, and I kind of expanded from there and started reaching out to different editors in the industry. So I specifically talk to people like Jasmine Amiri, Heather Antos. I would do Zoom calls with them. I would do phone calls, emails. I gathered all the information I could find to learn how to become an editor, because as we all know, there is no, well, until Shelley Bond's book 2 weeks ago, there is no Bible. But now there is, thanks to Shelley, which is amazing. But I did everything I could to learn about the industry. My very first gig was for IDW. I was the editor of The Spider King. Great, fun, awesome series, and things kind of just expanded from there. As a writer, letterer / editor, my big thing was trying to find a happy home where I could still do what I want to do, and I could still be a creator myself, and I wouldn't be locked into weird non-compete clauses and things like that. So I've actually walked away from deals from other publishers in the past. But with Mad Cave, they were supportive of me, of my own pursuits. All my different freelance opportunities I already had in place with other creators, and they still wanted to bring me on board. So I'm eternally grateful to Mark London, Mark Irwin, Chris Fernandez, and the rest of the company to just bring me on board and let me do my thing while also doing everything I can for the company. And that's why I'm so loyal to Mad Cave. That's why I have this goofy tattoo, because they believe in me, I believe in them. And I can't say a whole lot because how we are as a company, but we have a lot of big things happening. And like, if you just look at like, oh, they hired this person, they keep on hiring people. I think that speaks a lot to where we are going in the next 6 months, to the next year, to years beyond. So yeah, I don't know. I'm here now. It's great. Everything's perfect.
I think it's great. And I think like Lauren, you've put your hands on the keyboard quite a lot. I think, and Lauren, I noticed that you had done more, fan journalism and enthusiast. I don't even know what we call it. Like we used to call it what is it? Fan press? What's the right term, Lauren?
A lot of what I wrote was reviews of individual comics, which was it was fun to see it from the other side, right. To view it with a more critical eye. But I've written everything from a review of a local ice cream shop, which was really fun. And how to best support the Houston rodeo vendors during the pandemic. But yeah, a lot of my credits are writing, fan content, mostly for Screen Rant, which was a really fun opportunity. And it was neat to see things just from the other side.
And Lauren, I mean, you wrote a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you were busy, and I mean, the quality of your writing is excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very readable. Like even topics that I might not have necessarily been interested in, I was really impressed with the quality of your writing, and it was clear that you had worked at it. Again, I'm going to go back to like, what did you learn from this? Did you get a lot? Number one, did you get a lot of context inside the business? Did that help you break in? Because a lot of the people that are watching the show are interested in breaking in or leveling up in comics. So Lauren, first, how about you? What did that experience writing for Fan Press do for you?
So I worked in comics and then I did Fan Press. So it's probably a little backwards than the way most people do it. But Fan Press was a really interesting opportunity because I had so much experience working on the back end of comics and then reading comics. I found that, I can read, I read things critically, but there was this chance for me to read it with a more fan-oriented thing rather than, an English paper kind of way of reading, where I'm looking at how does this compare to previous issues? How does this tie into other things going on in that universe? So it was a very interesting way of looking at it. I broke into comics because I applied to Valiant's intern program, I want to say 3 times in one semester, and I never heard back. And I waited till the next semester. I applied 3 more times, and I went up to their booth at a convention that I don't think exists anymore, and said, look, I've applied 3 times. Can I just get a rejection email? I haven't heard back.
Wow.
And The guy running the booth was like, wait, no, we haven't seen your application. Give me your card. I will figure out what's going on. And all of my applications had gone to spam.
Wait, Lauren, hold on. You applied 6 times and then went there and hunted them down and were like, I just want an answer. Is that more or less how it went?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a pretty tenacious person. And I wanted this internship so badly. Like Chaz, I had done all the research on how to get into it, and everyone said get an internship. And I applied a bunch of different places, and Valiance was connected to NYU, so I would get credit for it. And yeah, I applied 3 times in the winter, had to take a different internship. And then when I didn't hear back for the spring semester, it happened to line up with this convention, and I just said, look, I went up to him and I said, look, I really, really, really want this position. I just wanted, like, I want in, tell me what to do. And it turned out just to be an email filter problem. But yeah, I got in that way, and I would show up to my internship and I would get all of my intern work done as fast as I could, basically, so that I could go sit with the editors at Valiant, Tom Brennan, Kyle, Andrew Kiewitz, and Danny Kazam. And I would just sit next to them and bother them with questions all day. And Alejandro Arbona, they were all very, very, very sweet to me, because I would literally just drag my chair over and sit next to them and ask them questions for hours. Like, what are you doing? Can you show me how to do what you're doing? What's the next step? And they would send me to, a different part of the room with script pages and art. And we would practice balloon placement. Wow. And I'm forever grateful for them taking the time to teach me how to do things. Because I don't know that I would be where I am without them taking the time out of very busy schedules to teach me that stuff.
Lauren, but like, I think one of and you saw the comments from the live audience. I think what's so impressive is that you knew what you wanted and you went after it. And I think that people often will quit after the first try, and maybe they'll give it a half-hearted second try, but you gave it 6 tries, and then you physically went someplace. I mean, look at Marianne's comment. I mean, you physically moved your human body to find these people. That is something that I think everyone who's listening, it probably resonates, that you didn't just get here the easy way. You just didn't fall into it. You kicked that door down.
Thank you. This is such a face-to-face industry. Thanks, guys. That getting your face and your name out there, I had cards that had my name and my phone number and my email, and that I was a grad student in publishing. And I talked to just a bunch of different companies at this con. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was out on the piers in New York. And this is such an industry where you have to kind of make friends and get to know people, and the right people will help you. And they'll find the time to help you out. And now that I'm in, I'm so, so glad that I didn't give up.
Absolutely. And Lauren, that's an inspiration to everyone who is saying, I want to be in this. I'm hitting the wall. You saw the wall. The wall wasn't moving. You found a way around the wall until you got a doorway. So I think that is just amazing. And Chaz, you have a pretty exciting origin story as well. I went to your website and I was just, I just couldn't stop scrolling around. I'm going to just pull it up really quick, because I think what was amazing about your website is it really the diversity of what you have done in your career. Where is it? I'm going to go to here. Number one, your website just looks so good, Chaz. It
well,
is
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's such an inviting environment. It just shows who you've partnered with. It's very clear. It's all your awards. And when I was in here, I was like, okay, let me just check out what this person is doing. And like, You have a terrific gallery showing your work, and everything just really came together so well. But then I was like, wait, games and apps? You've worked cross-platform doing all kinds of things, and then your TV and film, of course, we just popped out, and then just the about and content. How are you a web designer as well? Like what
this is actually just a Squarespace website. Like a lot of people my age, I learned how to do some basic coding through MySpace, just learning some HTML things here and there. But Squarespace makes it a lot easier for people. I guess on this note, one of the biggest things I'd say for all aspiring creators out there is make a good, solid portfolio. Put everything out there. Don't use DeviantArt. Try not to use ArtStation. Try to actually make a website. Because when you look at DeviantArt and ArtStation as an editor, you'll see like, oh, they haven't updated this since 2017 or 2018, and it makes it a little bit harder. But if you have a professional website, it doesn't have that timestamp on there, so it kind of works in your favor just a little bit more. But I think the big thing is actually just showcasing your work in a way that makes it easily digestible across the board. I know that with Lauren, she had a more direct path towards editorial. For me, I still want to be a writer. I still try to write a whole lot. I just recently did something for Xenoscope last month that's coming out in a few weeks here. I do a lot of lettering work. And I think it's one of those things where I try to diversify myself to get my name out there as much as I can. As a writer, I think all writers should learn how to letter. It makes you become less verbose. You try to actually like self-edit yourself to make sure it can actually fit in each and every single panel. You actually learn the process a little bit more. You understand like that you're providing too much narration for a scene, like when you can actually tell visually with the art itself. As an artist, I think you should learn how to pencil, ink, color, do everything. Ideally try to learn how to letter too, because I know a lot of artists out there, they'll just try to self-letter or they'll try to like cut corners. And a lot of times projects don't get picked up because the lettering looks bad, because it brings the whole entire project down. So it's one of those things where just if you're trying to break in, it's okay to just try other areas too. Just diversify yourself and learn as much as you can. And if you're looking to be an editor, I think it's your job and your responsibility to learn each and every single role underneath you. Like with me, I know a lot about lettering. I know a lot about writing. For art, I read a lot of books to learn more about art because I cannot draw whatsoever. Same thing applies to coloring. So I read things like Hi-Fi Coloring for Comics, which is a phenomenal book on how to color. I will never do any of that myself. I can never do that. But I learned those processes to know how much easier it is to talk to someone else that does that position. And I think it's one of those things where you just have to, I know I kind of like transitioned out of my portfolio website to all this other stuff here, but I think it's one of those things where you have to just be learning a little bit of everything. Because if you learn how your collaborators work, you can be a little bit more respectful of them and their time. You can figure out what's feasible for them, what's feasible for you, and you can just kind of power forward. Because when I think of all mediums out there, I think that comic books as a whole is a very collaborative medium, and you have to rely on your partners. You have to trust them. You have to let them do their thing sometimes. It might not be the best thing in the world, but if it works for the project and it's not breaking the storytelling and it looks good and it looks good enough, just keep on powering forward and making things happen.
Hey, Lauren, I see you doing a lot of nodding here. You want to jump in?
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking that this is another opportunity where you can get face-to-face time with people that do those other things. I had a very, very kind letterer when I was at Valiant that answered all of my questions about lettering that I had. He means a lot to me that he was taking the time when I said, look, I just stopped being an intern recently. Tell me what I can do to make your job easier. And he was wonderful and answered all of my questions. So even if you don't necessarily want to read or learn, there's always that opportunity to say, hey, can we go grab a cup of coffee? Conventions are a great place to do that. Just to say, I'd love to talk with you about what you do and how you do it. This is, like I said, it's a face-to-face industry, even though, we're all working remotely. Getting FaceTime with the people you work with is so valuable, and people that you want to work with as well, just to be able to talk to them about how they do what they do and how you as an editor can make their job easier.
That you just said that 2 times in a row. I think that's a really important point. And for both of you as an editor, I'm a freelance writer as well. And I think that as a freelance writer, I've always tried to make my editor's job as easy as possible. And Lauren, you just said it 2 times. make the job as easy as possible. Those are key concepts. Like, even once you become a very successful creator, there's an editor on the other side who is juggling a lot of people. So just briefly unpack a little bit more, Lauren, how a freelancer who is working with an editor can make your job easier. And Chas, you'll be getting the same question. How can freelancers who are working with you make your job easier?
I think communication is really important. Just in terms of, as an editor, I operate on deadlines. I have so many spreadsheets with different dates and different times, and letting me know if you've run into a problem is great. That's incredibly helpful. And another thing is remembering that both the writer and the editor, like, we're both people. I have a very large and friendly cat, and he likes to throw himself in front of the screen during my Zoom calls. And instead of, feeling embarrassed by that, most people are really excited to see an animal. And so it's just remembering that everyone's a human. We've all got things going on. That's important. And one thing that I do is I ask the writers I work with how I can help them, how I can make things easier for them. And some people want to have daily emails from me, where if it's just, I don't know, here's an article I read that's kind of relevant to the project we're working on, where we have a back and forth that's every day. And other people just want an email a week before a deadline that's, hey, a friendly reminder, you have a thing coming up. It's finding a back and forth and finding a pattern and being willing to have that first conversation. That's, what can I do to make your job easier?
I love that. Chas, what are your thoughts on what Lauren was unpacking here?
We have actually had this conversation before our phone call with you. We actually reviewed this earlier today just to make sure we're both on the same page, because we didn't know for sure. But it's one of those things where we're 100% on the same page across the board for everything. It really comes down to communication, being a person, being professional, and being friendly. As an editor, you will continually hire someone that hits their deadlines and is friendly and communicates 10 times out of 10. You're like, you always want to work with that person in any project you possibly can. But if someone is a hassle, if they continually miss deadlines, if they go MIA every time something is due, at that point in time, it kind of sours the relationship and it makes things a little bit harder. But as long as people communicate, as long as anyone is upfront about what's happening, like, we get it. We know that life happens. There will be bad things that happen in everyone's life that you can't control, and it's going to push back deadlines. But if you communicate it as soon as it happens, cool, we'll work with you. We'll do whatever we can to help you out and ease those deadlines and move things back. But if you disappear the day that things are due and be like, oh yeah, all this stuff happened last month, it's a lot harder for everyone on the entire team. And I think that it's one of those things that makes things a little bit harder between work for hire books as well as creator-owned books. With creator-owned books, you have a little bit more leeway with scheduling and deadlines and things like that. But for work for hire books, it very much is a business, and they schedule things well in advance. They want to get things out and hit those deadlines. So it just kind of comes back to just communicating. Just talk about what's happening, being a human, being professional, and just getting things done.
And Chas, I think your experience as a letterer probably highlights that, because when the first person in the process is late, there is always a domino effect. And if you have to meet a deadline, boy, is it ever the lettering studio that has to work the fastest, right?
Yep.
Like,
and it's the saddest thing, because like, you'll see it with colors, you'll see it with lettering, and it's when there is any sort of kink in the entire process, it pushes things back for everyone. And it doesn't just push back the work, it pushes back payments for your collaborators. And those collaborators, they might need that payment for something. They might need it for health insurance or going to the doctor. So like, it's sometimes hard to think about like, oh yeah, well, maybe I'll get to that on Monday, blah, blah, blah. But like, every single action has a reaction for everyone in the entire team, because it is a production line process where A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D. And as you said, it can be a headache for the people at the very end of the line.
Wow, that's something. So I know that we had talked a little bit about Lauren's line of books. I realized I got to pull up the Mad Cave website. You tell us a little bit about what books that you're editing, because I know that we talked a little bit about what Lauren is editing. I'll pull this up. You start the
chatter. No worries.
Chatter. Go and go.
So essentially, Mad Cave is a traditional comics publisher. Any type of comic story you would actually imagine across every single genre. We have a lot more stories that fall into action, adventure, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, though. With all of our tales, there's a couple ones in there that might fall a little bit underneath Maverick, but that was pre-Maverick imprint. But as you can tell, just from our whole entire breadth of our catalog, we cover a little bit of everything. It's when you think about our comics, think of high concept projects and properties that are easily marketable, that you can easily summarize in a quick log line or elevator pitch. Those easy comics where you can just recommend in a comic shop, like, oh, it's like this, like Nottingham. It's a darker version of Nottingham. It's a darker version of Robin Hood, that type of thing. And that's really kind of it. We make comics, and we are going into every genre across the board.
All right, so this is where we're going to transition. Not long ago, we had Mark Irwin on the show, and for people who want to see what else we have done, I'm going to just pull up real quick one more tab to show when we. So this is you're live now. We talked about the Mad Cave Studios talent search, and we talked to Mark Irwin. My question for both of you, whoever wants to start, is what are you looking for in new creators? Many of the creators who are part of Comic Book School are either hoping to get their first work published, have had some work published, and are looking to level up. But there is a great affection toward creator-owned work, but I know that you also have some studio-owned work. So which of you would like to start to talk about what you're looking for in creators?
I just talked a lot, so Lauren, you can kick it off, and I'll carry it
Lauren,
afterwards.
You're on the hot seat. Go.
All right. So at Maverick, I'm looking a lot for relatability, and I'm not necessarily saying things that I myself relate to, but stories that are going to resonate with people that from all walks of life, maybe people that have never even like seen themselves in comics before. Because we have a focus on that, and that's something that I love about being able to work at Maverick, is that we're telling so many different stories from so many different walks of life. It's really a joy to get to work on that. So if you're telling something that's relatable, that kind of speaks to a core experience for you or for someone you know, that's something that I'm looking for. I'm also looking for you to be excited about it. You can tell when someone's like put their all into something, and I don't know, it just kind of like makes it shine. It's really special to see. And another thing I kind of look for is that you see graphic novels as a medium and not a genre. Mm-hmm. Because you can tell any story you want in a graphic novel, because it's just a way of telling a story, like an article or a poem or a movie. But I'd love to see a story that fits that medium. There's just such a wide variety of stories you can tell in that medium that can't be told in any other way. So it's kind of hard to put into words, but I guess respect for graphic novels as a medium and an understanding that this is the best possible way to convey your story.
All right, so two questions that go to that, Lauren. Question number one of the two, and I'll tip my hand here. I love anything that has to do with underwater. Like you put something underwater, I'm in. I'll read it. I just finished like reading this gigantic 10-volume graphic novel series. It's all takes place underwater. I think it's the greatest thing. What genre? Because again, there's a whole bunch of people here who are waiting to pitch you. What genre would you love to see?
Oh, I really love, I'm going to call it kind of light sci-fi. I'm a massive X-Files fan. So I really enjoy kind of the paranormal that's folded into our world. I love slice of life stuff and things that are a twist on slice of life. I love a good, story about someone coping with a secret, and that secret is that, I don't know, they're like 3 dogs in a coat or something. And they still have to go to school. I love when people have dual lives. Dual lives is what I was looking for. Things like that. I also love optimism. I I'm not necessarily saying that it needs to like have a happy ending all the time, but I think that we've gone through so much the last few years that I really get excited about a story where things are looking up. So I do optimistic and light sci-fi is my answer.
I like it. It sounds good. Second part of that question, and it's more on the format side. Our community's looking at the Maverick landing page, wondering, wow, what can I send to Lauren? What's the right format for, and by format, I mean how many pages, single graphic novel, multi-volume graphic novel? What's an ideal format for somebody pitching you cold?
One, you're welcome to stay, and I have ideas for other books, but starting with one single graphic novel is great for me, because I love a long story, but we have to start at the beginning. And I'd love to see a pitch, something that
I'd love for it to pull me in, something that it's got to be concise, and I'd love to see all your plot laid out. It doesn't need to be highly detailed, but 2 paragraphs about these are the things that are going to happen. These are the things I'm going to touch on. Chas and I had a really great conversation about that earlier today, about the things that we want to see in a pitch. So I'm going to kick it back over to him.
All right, Chas, you're in the spotlight, and just starting with what
I just lost audio. 1 second.
Yeah, you lost audio. You can mute. Chas, what are you looking for as an editor, and what would excite you in your inbox?
I think first and foremost, I think that I look for stories that actually have thematic elements and meaning behind them. Everyone can tell a story. Like, you tell stories at the dinner table, or when you wake up in the morning, when you talk to friends, like, oh, this happened today. Everyone knows beginning, middle, and end. But why are you telling this story? Is this a deeply personal story about family? And what thematic elements are you exploring? And I think that those are the types of things that actually truly resonate with readers for a long time to come. That once they're done putting down that book, they think about your book. And it's not just a fun one and done experience. They remember specific things from it. So I personally love when books actually have true meaning to them, as opposed to just a bunch of cool action and things that happen. For Mad Cave on our front, I did mention this before, we do like to have projects that are easily marketable, that you can explain what they are in a very, very succinct way. With all of our books, one thing that I will say is we try to diversify our portfolio as much as possible. So if you have a pitch that is kind of like one of our other series, we probably won't pick it up. We don't want to cannibalize our own sales with something that's so similar so soon. We might touch that topic again down the road in the future, but right away, if someone has another Robin Hood story, we're not going to release that because we already have Nottingham, if that makes sense. But I guess going a little bit deeper, looking at the individual roles when it comes to what I'm looking for writers, inkers, all that stuff. For writers, I think it's very important to have someone that understands how to start late and finish early. They know how to write for the page turn. They are good with dialogue. They know how to actually properly format a script, even though we don't necessarily have a one and done final format for comic scripts. I think it's good to actually have someone that isn't making it just all caps across 20, 30, 40 pages, because at that point they're just pretty much yelling at me and I'm like, please stop. But so there's all of that there. But I think it's one of those things where a lot of people that have that ability to tell stories within them, and it's really just refining things for the medium and figuring out A, B, and C plot lines to make that book flow well from scene to scene to scene. For artists, the big thing I look for sequential storytelling for sure. So if I'm looking at someone's portfolio on their website and I only see pinups, I'm like, cool, this is a gorgeous pinup, but can you tell a comic book? Can you tell a comic story? Can you actually sequentially lay out a scene? From within there, I do like to look to see how they frame things. I like to see how they guide the reader's eye. I especially look for layouts. As a letterer myself, I look for that quite a bit because I hate when people stack on the left side because it causes the reading order to mess up. Because if you take a step back and you think about when your friends and family say they don't know how to read a comic, they don't know how to read a comic because the book doesn't help them. It's working against them. It's these splash panels and it's panel breaking action that makes the reading order all muddled. So I look for the ability to just tell a clear story on the page. And then I also look at the different art styles and things like that. For colorists, to be honest, that's not my biggest forte. I do just look for what works for the art in question. I look at how the atmosphere and tone of the scene is told as well, and to see if it's actually relevant for how the storytelling is being carried through. And then when it comes to lettering, I specifically look for how they provide emphasis for scenes and how they also guide the reader's eye through the page. Because with lettering, you are the final say. It is actually. It's a bunch of old horror comics. With lettering, you're the final say on making that page readable for the reader. It's one of those things where sometimes people focus way too much on art, and it looks pretty, but you don't know what's really happening. And with lettering, you can kind of quote unquote fix some of that. But ideally, you have that taken care of at the very, very first step for artists.
I love how clear you both are on what you're looking for. It's so different, but both are very clear on what those the types of creators that you want to work with. And I think that's helpful to the community. Chas, the same question I was asking to Lauren. What genre, other than Robin Hood, would penetrate your inbox, and what format would you like to see? Some editors are like, I want to do 64-page one-shots, like 3 issues. Talk to me about genre and format for our audience.
With Mad Cave, all of our comics are 4 to 6 issues. 4, 5, or 6, primarily 5 and 6, but I'm pushing to get it down to 4 to make things a little bit more manageable here and there. But we have actually gotten into the original graphic novel game. I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's been a few different announcements for Dennis Hopeless's series called The Carmen Line. And that is an 80-page original graphic novel. And that's coming out, I believe, March of next year. And we have other ones in that line as well. I obviously can't talk about them yet, but they are happening. So with us, though, we do primarily look for a miniseries. I think it's one of those things where a lot of up-and-coming creators, they want to have this big 80-issue epic. But as Lauren said earlier, you want to have a nice self-contained first story. And if that first story does do well, we will continue on. We can actually make more stories. We can make more volumes. Like right now, Nottingham is on volume 2 because volume 1 did well. But we want to make sure the story that we are telling is complete, that everything is finished, and that we can maybe have the possibility on the road, but it's really about making that story as perfect as it can be. So
and
really
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, and I think for you as a creator, starting with one story can help it feel a little less overwhelming. Jumping in. I love a big world. I play a lot of tabletop role-playing games. I understand wanting to chase the thread and go do something, but you have to, starting with that one single thing you want to do will make it so much easier for you and easier for your editor when you submit, because we're able to see exactly what you want to do and how we can work together to make something great.
That's a really great point. And being able to tell a small story is sometimes you just have to write to the page count, and that's what this is about. And Chas, I don't know, did we get what dream genre that would penetrate your inbox?
I'm a big horror buff. Pretty much my entire apparel line is from Creepy Company or Middle Beyond. So I love horror movies. I'm also a big sci-fi guy. I feel like with both of those, you can explore lots of very deep themes. I know people think of as horror as very schlocky, but if you look at horror objectively, there's a lot to say within the medium, and you can say it in very unique ways.
Well, I will tell you, there is a new zombie movie that just hit Netflix this week. It was filmed in Spain, and it takes place in Europe during World War II. And they have a zombie outbreak, but it's told through the eyes of 2 Spanish soldiers. So like things that we don't usually see, right? They took a common genre and they put a play on it, and it was really terrific. And they did a great job on it. But we're not going to talk about Netflix because we don't.
Oh, that's right. Now I love genre.
Nearly enough for that.
It's great. It's great.
So I'm now going to do something here. I'm going to share this, and I am going to pull up your workspaces. I'm not sure who comes up first. So when you see your workspace, tell us who it is. All right.
That's me.
That's mine.
You. Tell us what your workspace, Lauren.
So this is my workspace. One of my favorite things about working from home is that I am in complete control of my workspace. I really like the color pink. So I looked for a bunch of pink accessories. And I have this really lovely rolling cart full of all of my editorial reference guides. And because I've worked on so many different things, I've got a lot of interesting reference guides. I've got a copy of the DSM, which is for psychology because of a previous role, but that's still there. I've got the Essential Guide to Comic Book Lettering. I've got Shelley Bond's new book. For me, my workspace is a lot about functionality and being able to look at something that I want to see, like all of my little kind of toys and my Porg. His name is Bagels. And I like the ability that I can come to work every morning and I'm just excited to see my workspace. The thing hanging on the door is I'm a print person. Even though we operate completely online, in terms of how Mad Cave works, I like to have the actual printed script in my hands so that I can look down, look at it, and then look up at my screen when I have the art. Even though I do have two screens, it's just easier for me that way. And I found this really lovely over-door hanger designed to hold binders. And the scripts that I work with are around 200 pages, so it needed to be sturdy. And this to me is just kind of my ideal setup. I love being able to hold it and turn pages, and I will edit on those pages and then type up my edits in a separate email. Just reading and editing to me are a very physical action. I need to be holding it. I need to feel the page turns. I need that small crinkling noise that the paper makes when I turn it. So yeah, that's my workspace. It's happy and upbeat.
I love your workspace. It looks like we're getting a couple of comments in here. So Chaz, looks like you got a shout out for 80 sci-fi movies. And then there was one, how about them zombies, boulder holders for pitches, time to show and tell. Oh, I think I pulled up an impolite, I thought it was commenting on zombies. My apologies. Let's jump to the next workspace. I'm going to assume that this is yours, Chaz. It's a little different.
Yes, much more basic and more simple. Right now, I am currently house hunting, so pretty much everything is boxed up and put away besides this. For me, I just have a secret lab chair. I spend many, many hours at my desk, so I'm always editing or lettering or doing something. So hence the back support, the nice cushiony armrest upgrade, and then the head support. I have a 34-inch monitor that's a curved widescreen. I usually always have Slack up on the far right side to talk to my teammates, as well as Gmail on the left side. I have an ergonomic keyboard as well as an ergonomic mouse. It's one of those things where I am 35, so I am getting a little bit older. And the more I'm at a computer, the more you can do damage to your body. And I know that having correct posture and having correct hand and arm placement for everything really matters for everyone across the board in this industry. And I actually had to have a surgery like a month and a half ago for ulnar nerve compression. So it's one of those things where it's perfect for just working long hours on a computer. MacBook Pro, and then a PlayStation 5 for when I want to unwind a little bit.
You literally have a PlayStation. I didn't realize that's an actual PlayStation 5 that's on your work desk, and it's tempting you all day long, right?
And that's my reward. That's my reward. Like, I can get through this. It's been 12 hours, but now I can play PlayStation. So
I feel like that's like having a bag of open Twizzlers on your desk. Lamborghini just tried 35,000 words in 3 seconds. I think Vince approves of your setup.
Honestly, Vince, if you're looking for the gamer chat, now, honestly, everyone, Secret Lab is phenomenal. I actually did have a Herman Miller Aeron chair. It's a desk chair that's meant for offices, and they have it for people working long hours in the 9-to-5 job. It just didn't work for me. It just did not feel comfortable. So this chair, I want to say, with all these attachments, it was like $700 or so, but my back is so much better. And you just have to just take care of yourself in this medium.
I 100% agree. And it makes me think I need a new computer chair. That's for sure. All right. As we're coming to the end, I'm going to pull the question up. There's a question we ask all of our guests. What is one piece of advice that you wish you had received earlier in your career? So I'm going to pull this down. And there you go. Lauren, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received early in your career?
Trust your gut. You're pursuing this because you love it, and you're pursuing it because you've had a lot of exposure to it. If something seems like it could be improved. Like, don't be afraid to say something. That's something that like I wish I had learned much, much earlier. And now that I'm more comfortable in it and have people that I can, talk to in this industry, it's something that I'm very glad I know. So trust your instinct. Like, stories. You interact with them all the time.
I love it. Great answer. Chas, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received early in your career?
Learn to love rejection. In this industry, you have to keep on trying. You have to keep on trying hard. You can't just have one idea and expect that idea to explode at any publisher you send it to. Have 10 ideas, have 100 ideas. Go through every publisher as many times as you possibly can to get that first credit. And once you have that first credit, publishers are going to respect you so much more. They'll take more time to look at you because they realize you can deliver a final product that has been on shop shelves before. Just keep trying. Don't give up. It's gonna be a long, long trek. I read in a book somewhere that it takes 5 to 10 years to break in this industry. And that's true for some people, but once you're not in for forever. The grind never stops. You will always get rejected, but just keep on going forward. And when you have those successes, they feel that much better because you did make it happen.
Yeah, that's so true. And when I was writing a monthly book, somebody said, "What's it like writing a monthly book?" I said, "It's like always having homework due." There's like you turn in your homework and now you're working on your next homework. But if that's what you want to do, if that's what you dream to do, you have to know what you're getting into. And I think you had said it earlier, which was, people will have these excuses for why they're not turning in the work, but they've tried for years to break in, and then they get in and then they're late. And you're like, really? Like, isn't this everything you wanted and you're late already? So I think people have to be mindful of just how challenging it can be to break in, but it's also challenging to stay in. You have to be likable. You have to be easy to work with.
That's 100% true. And I couldn't agree more. Like, you nailed it.
I'm glad that everybody agrees with me, and this is feeling good that we're all in agreement. Actually, we got one more. I'll just stare at that chair instead of the Advil back extra strength. Yeah, that is, I got to tell you, the chair wins tonight. Lauren, you have a heck of a setup, but the Chas chair and the PS5, that's a combo. That's tough, but both are great.
Well, thank you very much.
I am jealous of the chair. My little round chair works for me, but I respect the gaming chair. It's a smart move.
All right, so one of the things that we always ask our comic book school audience and students to do is to support the creators who come on and spend time with us and share their professional insights. And the way we do that is to buy their books. So, Lauren, what's out now that our comic book school students may want to run out and buy?
So Needle and Thread, we just did another printing of that. It's a really great story about learning to be comfortable in your skin and embrace the side of yourself that maybe people don't want you to embrace. It's about cosplay. I really love conventions, so it was a very fun thing for me to read. And next month, In the Shadow of the Throne comes out, which is a fantasy story about this boy that he's trying to, I don't want to say avoid his responsibilities, but he, doesn't want to constantly babysit his little brothers. And he steps through a painting into a magical realm where he unfolds this whole mystery that's been going on. There's sword fights and action, and it's really, really beautiful. And I'm very excited about it. I'm really, really honored that I got to work on it.
And what was the name of that?
In the Shadow of the Throne.
In the Shadow of the Throne. Okay. So In the Shadow of the Throne. Chas, what is something that they should run to their local comic shop and buy right now?
We have a lot of titles in our catalog. We've been around since about 2014. So if anyone sends me a message on any platform, send me a genre and I'll let you know what book I think you should check out. But most of, sorry, go ahead. What was that?
That is very generous of you. And that'll lead to us asking people where to contact you. I'm going to be pulling that up in a second, but continue what you were saying.
Oh, okay. But most importantly, the thing I would like to highlight is we do have a new anthology that's up for pre-order right now called Lower Your Sights. And Lower Your Sights is about 156 pages right now, but
Wow.
it is a benefit anthology for Ukraine. And we are donating all proceeds to a foundation in Ukraine called Voices of Children. And they provide psychological and psychosocial support for children that are affected by war. With this anthology, I want to say we have around 93 different collaborators, ranging from Jim Zub, Rich Stoic, Andy Eschenbach, a bunch of my buddies, Bob France, Kevin Cuff. We have tons of people on this book, lots of great writers, lots of great artists, and most importantly, I did pull in a lot of Ukrainian creators as well. Some Ukrainian creators are actually doing comic stories themselves, and a lot of them are actually doing pinups that I found online from them, and they actually have a write-up on the side as well. And they're all powerful pieces. Everything is very poignant. Everything makes you think. It's just a very beautiful anthology, and it's for a good cause.
What's this called?
Lower Your Sights. With that, we have 3 different covers. We have one from Yev Haidamaka. She is a Ukrainian artist. We have another cover from J.G. Jones, which is gorgeous. And we have another beautiful cover from Ryan Sook. Ryan Sook's cover is exclusive to madcavestudios.com, but the other 2 covers can be pre-ordered today at any comic book shop.
Oh, look at that.
Hey.
I am actually 50% Ukrainian myself, so I appreciate you as well. And I'm glad that you like this idea.
That is so
I know
cool.
that there is another Ukrainian anthology. I don't think there's any war between either of our books. I think it's important to support both because they're both for good causes, and everyone wins in this aspect. So
I love it. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping before we go. I'll pull this one up because the person you just saw speaking does a YouTube show, multiple YouTube shows, but one of the ones that's probably most relevant for this audience is Backer Pause. He breaks down what makes somebody pause on Kickstarter and other backer platforms, which I think is pretty exciting, particularly for creators who are looking to get their work out there. Also, friends of the show, Rogue Wave, Mike, who's been on the show several times, and Hassan are friends of the show and often come and participate at New York Comic Con, where we will be in, I don't know, a couple of months. And I'm going to say, let's see, share screen, stop screen, share screen. We're going to share screen. Please forgive me. The ongoing joke is I still don't know how to run these controls. Lauren, I'm going to pull up your Twitter. Is this or some other platform the best place to connect with you? Oh, look, I'm going to follow you right now.
Thanks. Yeah, Twitter is the best place to connect with me. I post a lot of pictures of my pets and updates on the 4 different role-playing games I'm involved in, as well as, things I'm doing at work and things I've read. Yeah, there's the second printing announcement.
There you go.
But yeah, Twitter's the best place to connect with me.
All right, Twitter's the best place to connect with you. And then we're going to go to Chaz. We're going to say share screen. Watch as a middle-aged guy tries to use technology. There we go. They shouldn't let middle-aged guys run technology. Oh, and there you go. I'm going to do you too as well, Chaz.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is great. So is this or some other platform the best place to follow you? I just pull up Twitter because I'm a Twitter person.
To be honest, I'm not really good at social media. I rarely ever get on it. I'm always doing other stuff on the side. I think I'm more active on Instagram, actually. But Instagram is mainly photos of my chubby corgi and my ferrets and video game stuff. But I try to bounce back and forth.
Corgi is the cutest corgi I've ever seen. So,
well, thank you. But I don't know. I'm an enigma. I pop online here and there, maybe once every week or so, and that's kind of about it. So, like today, I could retweet a lot of stuff. Like, oh no, Buddy tagged me. I have to retweet that now. But
all right, but you did say if someone from our audience reaches out to you and says, "Get," they're cheering me on. They're cheering on the middle-aged guy to run the computer. But if somebody does want to reach out to you and says, "You know what genre I love, this future retro, a post-apocalyptic. What do you got?" You'll answer. What channel should they hit you up on?
Honestly, they could just email me, chaz!@gmail.com. All one word, just all written out, no exclamations. I think that might be a little bit easier. But beyond that, honestly, if I see it on Twitter or on Instagram or even Facebook, I'll just respond to you when I get a chance to log in and actually see what's happening. But on my end, I truly believe it's important to try to help foster growth in this community. So if and when anyone ever tries to have any questions about editing or writing or lettering, I just try to respond. It might take me a while sometimes because I try to provide longer answers, but I'm always here for anyone, really.
And that is super.
Same goes for me. If you want to talk to me about like why editing, or just experiences that I've had, or if you want to hop on Zoom and chat about the industry, I'm more than happy to help answer questions as best I can.
You guys are the nicest. I have to tell you, you're the two nicest senior editors I've met. So both, thank you so much. I'm going to be talking to the comic book school community directly for a few minutes. I love Twizzlers, so in the green room, when I put you in the green room, you'll find Twizzlers there. Help yourself, but please don't log off because we'll be talking backstage. So thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. Chaz, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the green room. And that's it, guys. I mean, seriously, these guys were such terrific sharers of information. Am I right? They talked about how they broke in and how they stay in, their personal journeys, and they've also given you some deeply insightful tips. If you recall, Mad Cave, oh, thank you very much. As you recall, Mad Cave was doing a talent search. We talked about that. We've seen them publish new talent. For the comic book school community, for those of you who are at level 1 or trying to get to level 1, who are already at level 1 or level 2, you can see what they are looking for. You can see that they've made themselves accessible. I encourage you to continue the dialogue, build a relationship. Yeah, I agree. They did a great job. Build a relationship. Look for them at conventions. Ask where they'll be. Try to nurture a conversation, and not just self-serving, not just to get your thing published, but actually to, good insights, but actually to begin that journey of building those relationships. Lauren talked about how when she was an intern, she slid up her chair and she said, show me. And then after that, she said, how can I make your job easier? The great attitude from both of these editors is why they are here. So set that in your memory. Focus on your comics. Think about what you want to create. Over the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a lot of news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, and then you're going to hear a lot of news leading up to New York Comic-Con. Let it be a light and an inspiration for you to create your comic books, to stay focused, and to keep making comics. Thanks to everybody for joining us now and every time, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday where we own Tuesdays. Good night, everybody.